Howard Brown, come here. Hand that to Rodney. Stand right up here, Rodney. In the name of Jesus. Now, when you get up here, there'll be a message from the Lord. You'll need to stand on one of these steps. I don't know why that is, but stand on one of these steps. When you get up here, there'll be a message from the Lord on your heart. I want you to deliver it to the people. No, on these steps. Now, no, that ain't enough. Good. Yeah, that's good right there. Praise the Lord. Praise
this
the
is
Lord.
the day, this is the hour, saith the Lord, that I'm moving at this earth. This is the day that I'll cause you to step over into the realm of the supernatural. For many have preached, and it's been prophesied of old and said there was a move coming. But oh, it's even now and even at the door. For the drops of rain are beginning to fall of the glory of God. Yes, many of you that have sat on the threshold and said, oh God, when shall it be? Oh, you'll know that this is the day and this is the hour that you'll step over into that place of my glory. For this is the day of the glory of the Lord coming in great power. O priande kisnanda enaraman jukuradia aruboridia fanda namandura besiele andura dushikara dies tomorrow mandura delevriastea. For I'm going to break the mold, saith the Lord, on many of your lives and even your ministries and even that which was known the way you operated in days gone by. Oh, many shall rub their eyes and shall look and say, is this the same person that we used to know? Oh, for there's a fire on the inside of them. For this is the day of the fire and the glory of God coming unto his church. Rise up this day in great boldness. Rise up this day and be filled afresh with the new wine of the Holy Ghost. Rise up this day and oh, sepala manama erepe eribo oh coridiesta oh refied oh repasianama to drink, 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 to drink. O Sikaya, we drink parombo, mendebre viva ambrosto cora della brevivia.
I'm sorry.
Oh, yeah. We're not worried what other people think. No, doesn't matter what they think. Oh, no borodiesta pagaliado. Oh,
the psychological manipulation.
In a man, no mogolo bon jemba. My name on Morivia Castia Tolososo. Preferia.
Magda bako boste de sheshi ke pere plama bangala ma han este skap kre bol pamine maye pe plama to dobo bolivia ma.
We're laughing for two different reasons.
Helemaal wij kijken niet in steeds. Kom van ma. Begrebe.
Sukorneme in Bramban Jungolo CFF. And
this is real. I mean, this isn't real, but this really happened.
And Sakara Diestokora. Eh, boy. Prefia Pala, many in Sokora Day.
Well,
there's a new dimension coming to him, and I see you've known
how much
yes,
more?
you found good for it, and you said, oh God.
He said better motion with one. Yes.
Wow.
You are now listening to you're now listening to the revival.
Now, because what you were listening to before, I don't know what that was.
Yeah, we brought the fire right from the top. Huh? That's right.
Come on in.
All right. Hold the applause.
Come on in.
This is the Revival Hour, featuring your host, Brady Goodwin, and his trusty sidekick,
Come on now.
Jay Witt. We're telling you to tell a neighbor, tell a friend. This is the Revival Hour. This is the hour of power.
Come on in and greet
Tell a neighbor,
somebody
tell a friend.
in reason's name.
That's right. Host, subscribe, share, like, and all that other good stuff. Super chat. We got a nice variety show. We started with a spirit-filled intro, I would say. What we say, they were full of something.
They were laughing.
I think they were so
they were laughing in the spirit.
Laughing all the way to the bank. Yeah. Laughing all the way to the bank. That was, yeah. I said the audience was so impressed so easily, man. I was like, man, that's got to be the easiest way to make a living, right?
Well, I'll tell you what we're going to do tonight on this variety show tonight. We're going to try to string a bunch of things together that actually fit that same motif. So we'll see. We'll see if we can actually do that.
Yeah. So come on. We're bringing back. I think it feels like it's been too long, but it's been about 2 weeks since we've had some readings from the writings.
Yep. Before we go to the writings, can I read a couple of comments from Nurch? This past Sunday we had a good time. I think it was one of the best Nurches we've ever had, actually.
Yeah, I'd have to agree.
Just was a great time in Romans chapter 7. Looking at what is potentially, arguably, Paul's most destructive teaching, just in terms of what it does to our view of humanity. What is the human being? What is human nature? Mm-hmm. And a few comments. I'll just read a few of them real quick. Mm-hmm. David DeBow said, "I love Jay Witt's turn of phrase about being unable to begin the project of life until you deconvert and accept the realities of life." Errol Walker says, "Great content. Enjoy listening while I carry the mail." We appreciate you tuning in while you're out there on the grind. Great video. This is from Trevon Fox. "Great video. Love the commentary and information. Keep up the great work." Chris Littman, "I love attending Nurch over church. I gain so much more biblical knowledge, and I also don't lose 10% of my income before tax." Somebody said, "I'm interested in your videos on scientific mind compared to religious mind." And I mentioned that we will be doing a little bit of that tonight. Also love to hear a grifters series. This tonight might be the beginning of that, actually.
Yeah, we're gonna do a deep dive into some of these grifters because I might be out of the church, but I'm sick and tired. But whenever I see certain individuals, Bodie Buckham or whatever, seeing him come up on my timeline, some of these people, they just make your stomach turn. It's just so ridiculous, you know. And they think, as long as you have a book behind them, they can spot out the most misogynistic nonsense ever. As long as you can say it was written in an old book.
Right.
Yeah. And I'm just really excited to just subject them to the kind of analysis that they are deserving of in the 21st century. You know, you want to bring back Bronze Age ethics, then you should be subjected to 21st century scrutiny. Wow. I'm on here.
All right. You got some readings, some writings for
us. Yes, the aphorisms. So backed by popular demand or unpopular demand, we're bringing
backed
out
by demand. Let's just leave it at
that. We're busting out the old book of aphorisms, and this is just we usually exercise a little critical thinking, or we'll relate the aphorisms, which are just basically wise sayings. It's a fancy $3 word to say wise sayings. We exercise thought, critical sometimes just reflection on the aphorism. All right, so the one who's up to bat today is his name is Mohandas Gandhi.
Say it one more time.
Mohandas Gandhi, and you guys should recognize that name. He was born in India in 1869, and he died in 1948.
Okay.
All right. Let's see. It's a short one. Short but sweet. We'll see what you think. For the poor, the economic is spiritual. I'll say it again.
Mm,
For the poor, the economic is spiritual. What say
mm.
you, Brady Goodwin?
Ah, wow. It almost seems like a twist on the was it Marx? I'm not sure. I think it was Marx, that religion is the opiate of the people.
Yeah.
It almost seems like a twist on that. Like, well, if all you have, like if you don't have anything else, then you begin to trade in spirituality. You begin, if you don't have any tangible goods, you sort of fall back on intangibles and you make that your currency.
Mm-hmm.
I talked about this a while ago on my Facebook page. I think God is the way we trade in God currency to get people to perform morally the way that we would like them to. And so it's almost like a little kid, if kids are home alone and somebody's misbehaving, ooh, wait till mom come home. I'm gonna tell mom. You use that as the currency to make someone behave the way you wish they would when you don't have any real power over them. You try to
Mm-hmm.
cite somebody else who does.
Mm-hmm.
So maybe in the same way he's saying the poor don't have the currency, the tangible currency to trade. So they trade on the spiritual, they trade on the intangible currency. That's sort of
Mm-hmm.
where I get from there. How about you?
Yeah, no, this is sort of, I think you said a lot, and I think it was appropriate what you covered. I would just say, just thinking while you were talking, I was thinking about how it seems that a lot of times the message to the poor has to do with, natural things that the Lord, will bless you with and so forth. And then to the
Mhm.
rich, they say, money can't buy you that peace. It can't buy you happiness.
Mm.
So there ends up being two different messages preached to two different audiences.
Mm.
And sometimes they'll even tell the poor that, just
Yeah.
almost to make them, to satiate them in
Hmm.
their poverty, to say, hey, look, the the money that you think will resolve things, what you need is to be here, and you need to be giving us, as the brother said in the comment, that 10%. You need to be here, giving you 10%. God's going to take care of you.
Mm.
Um, don't worry about, hey, God clothes the lilies of the field,
Yeah.
right? Don't worry about how you're going to clothe yourself. You seek first the kingdom of heaven, and of course, that
Mm.
that tenth. A lot of these pastors, they include that tenth in the kingdom of heaven. So it's like, whereas you wouldn't have to worry about clothing yourself if you were using that tenth to buy your clothing. They'll tell you to give the tenth to the church, and then God's going to take care of your clothing and so forth.
Mm.
So it's a bit of it
Yeah.
is a bit, wow. Seems like the common denominator is the grift here, huh?
Mm.
It is a bit of a grift.
Yeah. Yeah.
Um,
You got another one for us?
yeah, the last one here will be this is by the same aphorist, Gandhi. Strength in numbers is the delight of the timid, the valiant of spirit, glory in fighting alone. I'll read it one more time.
Mhm.
Strength in numbers is the delight of the timid, the valiant of spirit, glory in fighting alone.
Mm.
Hmm.
So all day on my Facebook today, I've been not arguing, not even really some debates. I was sort of promoting tonight's episode
Mhm.
and got into discussions with people about Terence Howard. And there
Mhm.
were quite a few people who were willing to point out, I think it was Newton, when he first published his theory of gravity,
Mhm.
100 scientists gathered and wrote against him.
Mhm.
It was either Newton or Einstein that they wrote against. 100 scientists
Mhm.
against, I think it was Newton. You guys in the comments can correct me if I'm wrong.
The idea that they were comparing Isaac Newton to Terrence Howard is nuts already.
Well, here's what the comparison was.
Mhm.
When this theory of gravity, I don't know if it was Newton's theory of gravity or Einstein's general relativity, when he kind of amended Newton's, but either way, 100 scientists gathered and were against this particular scientist, and the people were using that to say, hey, look, when this person published their views, 100 well-known scientists gathered to publish against them, but this
Mhm.
person ended up being more right than these 100 scientists.
Mhm.
How do you know that Terence Howard isn't just another one of those? And hearing this aphorism from Gandhi, I could see somebody looking at that saying, hey, this person is willing to go against the stream. This person is willing to go against current thought, the consensus. He's valiant. He's that one. Whereas the others, the timid, like that strength in numbers. And the only thing I would say is that's not a good comparison. The reason why Jacob could say to compare Terence Howard to Newton, because it's one thing if you're talking about theoretical physics or something like that. It's another thing when you've taken the theory and applied the theory to the point that we now have based and built industries and all kinds of inventions, and we've advanced society. It's no longer theoretical physics. This now is cross-disciplinarian. We understand how these things work, and we advance from it, as opposed to somebody who's Terence Howard is not just saying, hey, I've got a new theory, we should try this. He's talking about the things that we've already done, saying those things are wrong when those things have shown fruit, and the things that he's talking about have not. And so all that just to say, I think I like the aphorism that, yes, the strength in numbers is for the timid, unless the strength is not just in numbers of people, but in numbers of examples and evidence that furnish fruit. In that case, the one who's timid, the one who's valiant and by themselves, if they're not producing fruit, there's probably a reason why they're by themselves. So
yeah. Well, many great aphorisms or great wise sayings, if they function within reason. Like, you can't just apply them without any, because sure, sometimes you shouldn't valiantly be going up against you. You have to measure your enemy on some level. It's also like the aphorism, all that glitters isn't gold. Well, gold is gold and it glitters. So you can press certain aphorisms to a point where they don't work. You get what I mean? And I think just compare. It's just nuts to compare Terrence Howard. Yeah. Anybody who doesn't understand what I mean by that, just go and just check out a Wikipedia page on Isaac Newton and just see what it says about his biography, and then compare it to the biography of Terrence Howard. And then you'll realize how ridiculous and basically I'll go ahead and say stupid it is to compare talking about Terrence Howard to Isaac Newton, who's one of the most brilliant minds of history. But that's a whole other.
Yep. All right. So with that in mind, just a reminder to you guys to play nice in the chat. If you wouldn't mind taking a minute just to go and give us a like for the episode. If you're not a subscriber, subscribe. It don't cost you anything, but it does help us to continue doing what we're doing and to show that this is a worthwhile channel, that YouTube should not hide us in the algorithm, but push us up. So yes, like, subscribe, and feel free to make your comment in the live chat. Or if you hear something that's particularly salient, make your comment in the under the actual video, so that even when the live chat is gone, your comment will remain. Oh, and you can super chat. We definitely appreciate any super chats that come in, $5, $10. We've had a brother that's been, given $100 every time he logs in. We just appreciate all that you guys give.
Sow that faith seed. Come on here. Sow that seed of faith into Ichabod.
We're going to be talking tonight about the religious mind, or religious thinking versus scientific thinking. And I'm going to take needle and thread, and I'm going to sew together a few different, what is seemingly disparate cloths. And I'm going to sew these threads together to show it's all of the same. It's all of the same ilk. Okay. So a couple of weeks ago, we did an episode on Billy Carson. And in the comments of the live chat, maybe even in the actual video, under the video, a few people said, hey, if you dig into Billy's backstory, you'll find some things that will show you, here's why you probably shouldn't be listening to this guy. And then somebody sent me an actual video, like, hey, check this out. And I watched the video. And so I went and I just did I I did an edit of this video. There's a guy called The Pocket Watcher. JT is a financial advisor on YouTube, giving advice to people. And I think Billy Carson must have sued this guy with a defamation suit because this guy exposed Billy Carson. So I'm going to play some of this video. I did a quick edit. Maybe I'll put the full link to the video in the comments. In the description. But I think this is a great video because I could spend time talking about why we probably shouldn't be listening to Billy Carson, but this guy is going to give us some good reasons and a good anecdote as to why. So I'm going to play it, Jay Witt, whenever you feel like, hey, that's a good point to stop and talk. Let me know. If I feel that I'm going to stop and talk. Here's what I'd like us to be thinking. This is a financial advisor, and one of his clients ended up in Billy Carson's web. And this financial advisor figured, I need to find out who this Billy Carson is. What I'd like us to do tonight is be thinking, is there any connection, any crossover, any overlap between the way we should be watching out for people that try to come into our lives with spiritual advice and the way Billy Carson came into this person's life with financial advice? And how do you get yourself out of these webs? How do you not fall into these webs in the first place? Because I think there's some principles that this guy is going to kind of expose us to that you might want to just say, you know what, I need to think more like that. How is religious thinking versus scientific thinking showing up in even this kind of a case? Michael Apple, thank you for the $10 super chat. Not going to give you $100. Still watching for the octave and beryllium. Terence Howard lingo there. Appreciate you, man. Thank you so much. All right, so I'm going to go ahead and share this JT video. And then I'm going to ask Jay Witt to be the surrogate for you all. And as a surrogate, show us how we should be thinking. And actually, Jay Witt, he's going to say some things that are very similar to what you said a couple of weeks ago. All right. Hold on. It's not letting me do my share. Give me a second.
So I guess somewhat some of the question of whether or not Billy stood to gain some sort of monetary profit from what he was talking, I guess that's somewhat answered. Huh?
I would think so. I would think so, but hold on, where is my share button? Give me 1 second, guys. I don't know what's going on here. Are you still sharing, Jay Witt? Oh, never mind. I found it. Here it is. Sorry. For some reason, I couldn't see my share for a second. All right. You should see the video in 5, 4, 3, 2. Here he goes. Oh, but I haven't shared my sound. Okay. This is the program is called Pocket Watching with JT. Here he goes.
I had a consultation with a client. You know, this client came to me later in life, just very recently. So their situation is they are recently retired and they have a mortgage on their home and they're unsecure about will they be able to handle this mortgage. They do not want to lose their home. Listen,
sorry.
Billy.
My fault.
Handle this mortgage. They do not want to lose their home. While having a conversation with this client, they said, I just made an investment, $8,000 in crypto. I was like, hold on. I said, you are on a fixed income. You do not have the money to invest $8,000 in some speculative, most likely worthless cryptocurrency.
Now, the jump cuts are me editing this. His video is it's a longer video. It's a 2-hour video. I've cut this down to 5 minutes. But this is somebody who he's got a client, older senior citizen in front of him. And this person is, you spent you don't even have this money to spend like that. $8,000 in cryptocurrency. Why would you do this? So watch how this develops.
I find out that they really didn't invest in cryptocurrency. The $8,000 went towards a cryptocurrency education course. It's going to teach me everything about the technology, about how to invest in it, how to even make my own crypto if I wanted to. And they told me that by the time I finish this course, I'll be able to make all my money back and then some. Someone had to sell you this, because this isn't something that you would do on your own. Senior citizens are a huge target when it comes to predatory sales in financial services. Who told you? Who influenced?
It's almost like Yahweh in Genesis. Who told you were naked? Who told you that you could spend this kind of money and make that kind of?
Yeah.
Why would you buy this? And this is when she tells me, Billy Carson. And I just looked at her and I was like, who is Billy?
Now, go ahead. Just thoughts, Jay, so far.
No, I'm just laughing because even the name is so generic, you know. like you know, I guess if Billy Carson hadn't become famous for his grift, you could have Googled his name and just a zillion results would come up of different people. I mean, it's
well, that's going to come up in a second, because I think there's
okay.
there's a good reason why Billy Carson is the name. So just pay attention to how this develops.
Yeah, okay.
I said, all right, let me look this guy up.
Oh, also, for anybody who's, I've got Billy Carson fans around me. I found out about him because somebody forwarded, yo, you got to check this guy out. They figured since I was deconverting from Christianity, this guy, Billy Carson, might be a good thing that I could detach from Christianity and attach myself onto this, because at least it's still got some pseudo spiritual, like it's not throwing everything away. It's just saying the Bible, you know, the way that Christians interpreted the Bible was wrong. There's still something we can get out of it. And I went and tuned into it, and I'm sitting here like, oh
yeah, that's the old religion rebound. You just got out of one relationship. We need you got to get in another one, right?
All right, so he's going to go into
the best way to get over the sham of Christianity is to find a new sham, right?
Wait, say more about that, because I got to go grab my laptop cord out. Keep forgetting.
No,
go ahead.
It was just, that was supposed to be a one-liner. He's telling me to elaborate on it. Yeah, no. I mean, for a lot of people, that's their mindset. It's like they truly believe in the God-shaped hole, I guess, in some sense. They believe that there's this hole that has to be filled with some sort of faith practice, some sort of, it's like, what are you going to do? Either they fear that there's a black hole of nihilism beneath us. And if we don't grab hold of the one branch, like almost like a monkey swinging across trees, you let go of one branch, but you can't let go of the one until you've got another one in hand.
Yeah.
And it's like, okay, we've just let go of Christianity. What's the next branch?
And that's what we're going to talk about tonight. We're going to talk about the different branches. And I got some stuff I can't wait to share. And I hope I'm not insulting anyone. But I think what Jay would just said about, you swing, you got to grab this new one before you can. Are you sure you're not just grabbing these same type of branches because you're scared to free fall into reality? And that's what we're going to talk about.
Well, I mean, some people fear that reality is nihilism. And I think it's time for us, come on here. Those who know better need to stand up and say that we need to reject that false antithesis. Like reality, it's not either I believe you're a grifter or I have to resign myself to abject nihilism. No, it's not nihilism for me to say, hey, I don't believe you're nonsense. And I might not have answers to a bunch of other stuff, but guess what? I might enjoy listening to some music. I might enjoy sleeping with my girlfriend. I might enjoy going out to a good restaurant. That's not nihilism. That's what you call living your life.
Right.
It's called living.
Save it, Jay.
Come on,
Save
come
it.
on
Save
here. I feel the power.
Save it for we're going to need that. So save that. Save that.
Okay, go on ahead.
I'm confused.
See, you got me started.
All right. So look, he pulls up. He goes searching for Billy, and this is what he finds. First thing he finds, this is advertisement. And when people were talking to me about Billy Carson, it was this ancient alien stuff. It was this, you know, it was nothing about this, but this is apparently also what you find. Discover a proven method to generate over $20,000 a month in passive income without breaking the bank. Mm-hmm. So not only is this guy selling books, he's also selling what looks like a scheme, $20,000 a month in passive income. So this crypto course, I've had people who they've made money off of crypto, but you know how you make money off of crypto? You make money off of other people's money. You're not going to convince me that cryptocurrency in many ways is not a multi-level marketing scheme. Just because people are making money off of it does not make it not a scheme. Mm-hmm. And I know it's worked for several people, but it's worked for you because of other people putting their money into it. But that's a whole other conversation. So here he is hawking this course that this woman got a hold of and sent them $8,000 to take this course.
Mm.
This is the first thing that I'm looking at. And I said to myself, we have a problem. Because I'm seeing alien talk. Like look at ancient civilizations, multiple dimensions. Now she said, hold on, JT. Billy Carson is highly educated. Billy Carson graduated from Harvard. And I'm saying to myself, ain't no way.
ain't no way, bro.
Do you know what I'm referring to when I say he says something that sounds very similar to your response?
I vaguely, like, you got to remember. I think I told Albert, listening to him was audio chloroform. So there's a sense in which I was just really, it was painful for me. It was definitely painful. But I think I do remember thinking, based on certain things, I was like, there's no way. Yeah, ain't no way, bro. Ain't no way.
So when we were talking about whether or not he had degrees in astrophysicism or physics or something like that, and you said there's no way. Because you said people who've studied those things don't talk like that.
Amen.
Do you remember what I'm talking about now?
Oh, yes. Because I Googled him and then found out it was that people were giving misinformation about his actual credential.
But people who have ventured into the realms of physics and don't talk the way Billy Carson talks, and in a minute we're going to talk about Terence Howard. People who've studied the things that he claims to have studied don't talk the way he talks. But this guy just said, ain't no way he graduated from Harvard talking about dimensions and ancient aliens. There's no way.
That's not Harvard talk.
And I know there are some people who are saying, why can't it be? All we're saying is, when should your skeptical antennas go up to make you say, this don't sound right? His client who paid the $8,000 didn't have the skeptical spidey senses that starts tingling to make you say, nah. But for you, watch it. When do your skeptical antennas go up and say, beep, 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 something's wrong here? All right.
Just saying, is it incidental that when I did the research and Googled him, that my suspicions were corroborated by the Google. You know, he was not educated the way people were saying.
Well, here goes. We'll get into that right now then.
Multiple dimensions. Now she said, hold on, JT. Billy Carson is highly educated. Billy Carson graduated from Harvard. And I'm saying to myself, ain't no way. I'm going to humor her. I am going to type into my search engine, Billy Carson, Harvard University. Billy Carson graduated from Harvard University. I'm sitting there like, hold on, whoa. Dr. William Carson.
Now, hold on. Remember 2 weeks ago when we were watching the Billy Carson video, and he was relying on the research of a guy named John Hutchinson. Remember that? And then I went and did the Google. So wait. John Hutchinson is an engineer from Harvard. No, the guy Billy Carson was talking about, his name is John Hutchison. John Hutchinson was somebody else. But if you don't go do that search, you think this is a Harvard grad talking to me. Well, in a very similar way, this is what happens here.
An African-American alum of Harvard University. Okay, all right. My bad. I didn't know you had, listen, Billy, I'm sorry. But something in the back of my head said, hold on, JT. There's no picture. So let me make sure we're talking about the same Billy.
See, this is what I'm saying.
This is exactly what I pointed out earlier, right?
Yeah.
Yeah.
We need to be sleuths of information. People ask, why do you spend so much time talking about Christianity when you're not a Christian anymore? A lot of the reason why counter-apologists, people like Dan McClellan, who's a scholar of the Bible, why be a scholar of the Bible if you don't think the things that it is saying are true? A lot of it is just, there's something in human nature where we just like a good sleuth. We just like figuring out when somebody was trying to get over on us. And how can I demonstrate that we don't need to pay attention to that guy? He's lying. This is just some good sleuthing going on here.
Yeah.
Is he
along with it? Let's just say, along with the fact that, it's like if you don't believe me, at least believe for the works. Like if you're not keen enough to know, like, look, this guy is talking some really ridiculous stuff, at least be keen enough to get on the internet and do a Google search on him. You know, like. Yeah. So it's like if you won't believe me, believe for the works. Like just go to Google. Yeah. Just go to Google. You know, when people make extraordinary claims, we've always said this. You have to back that up extraordinarily. You can't just make an extraordinary claim and that just tells you I'm very credulous if you say something that's pretty extraordinary and I just believe it on the strength of, and I don't even.
The saying is, extraordinary claims demand extraordinary evidence. Yep.
And I don't even think even if he were educated at the level that people say, I still don't think that you should come on here. We got the word of God that's more that's even more sound in a sense. We still have Google. We have ways to check things. You have, right. I mean, we don't live in an era where you have to order an Encyclopedia Britannica series, have it in your house. You can just get right on your computer and check out a lot.
And granted, you've got to be skeptical of what you find on Google as well. But
exactly.
But JT went, and when he started doing his research, he actually started going into official documents. Let's get into some of that real quick.
Yeah, for sure.
African American, alum of Harvard University, president and CEO of a multi-billion-dollar company. Let's take a look here. And this is what I found. It's a different Billy. This isn't my Billy.
His name is Billy Carson. Give me a break.
Here's my Billy. Billy does absolutely claim his education from MIT and Harvard University. And it seems as if Billy studied neuroscience at MIT and ancient civilizations at Harvard. But when you investigate it, when you look at it a little harder, you'll see that it was certificates. And I said, hold on, a certificate? in
Come on,
ancient
you hold on. You gotta pause it.
it.
You can just look at the graphic design on that and know this is some bullshit.
Well, this is on his
that's
his
what I'm
CV,
saying.
basically.
But what I'm saying, when you just look at the way this is set up with some sort of Egyptian all-seeing eyes, get the fuck out of here, man. like, come on, man. I'm not even going to read any further. I'm just going to look at it. It doesn't look official. I can judge a book by its cover, for sure, in this case.
Certificates. And I said, hold on, a certificate in ancient civilization? A certificate in neuroscience? All right, well, let's dig into this a little bit. What does it take to get this certificate? It takes absolutely no money. The course is free. And it takes about 8 weeks. And then when we take a look at MIT neuroscience, another certification, six weeks long.
Yeah.
All right. Just for anybody who's thinking, if his education, whatever you heard about it before you knew, if that was any of the, on the strength of that, you were willing to trust this guy.
Yeah.
You should at least be thinking, okay, well then maybe I gave him too much credit. Maybe I gave him too much credit too soon. I might want to decrease. I might want to back up off of how much stock I'm putting in what this person is saying, because he sounds like he knows what he's talking about.
I got to increase my skepticism so that he might decrease.
I was trying to find where they put that scripture, but I couldn't.
Come on here.
I was trying to, but if I increase my skepticism, yes, he will decrease.
Yes, sir.
Right. And so, but this is the part here. I don't know if there's anything more we need to say about that, so much as we should not be putting too much stock in his education if that's what made you think he's trustworthy. He learned some facts, he learned some terminology, he learned some geography, and he's been spinning this tale out of whole cloth. Granted, he probably is listening to a few other older people who've been spinning such, similar tales for longer than he has, but he's found a way to make a grift out of it. And why do I call it a grift? Well, JT went and did a little more digging that's going to help us understand why the grift language might be appropriate. So it's the last part of this that we'll share.
So I dig into this and I see that there are fraud charges, and these fraud charges.
These are third-degree felonies on his record, on Billy Carson's record. First of all, his name is not Billy Carson. His name is William Tyrone Carlson. That was his name.
It sounds like he literally changed it so that he might get confused with the actual Harvard grad.
Exactly. Well, let me not say exactly. Yes and no. Yes, and we don't know is what I should say.
Allegedly. We'll just say allegedly.
His name, well, I don't know who's alleging it other than us.
but allegedly is code for you kind of know what I'm talking about, but you can't sue me. But you can't sue me.
So his name is William Tyrone Carlson.
Yeah.
And William Tyrone Carlson with a K, not a C.
Yeah.
These are the court records for William Tyrone Carlson. He's changed his name to William Carlson. And I guess William Carson has a clean record, but these are the things that are on William Tyrone Carlson's record.
Wow.
There are fraud charges, and these fraud charges are based on some like identity theft type of issues, synthetic identities, fake IDs, opening up credit card accounts, a lot of messy stuff. Now, I will admit, and I want to be clear on this, the Billy that's on this document, this Billy is not some sort of big time criminal, right? He's not some sort of mastermind. We're talking about small time petty stuff. That's why in my original video, I said that Billy appears to be a grifter. See, grifters are small time petty swindlers, right? No big time scheme, not millions and millions of dollars. Talking about small time petty stuff. So that's why I said apparently he's a grifter. This is a small time stuff. I'm not talking.
So this is what's in his past. And if this is what's in his past, it should not be hard for you to envision then what he's doing currently might just be a new iteration of the thing that he was previously known for. He at least has it within him to take it this far.
Gives you a whole different view of those tears he was shedding when he was getting choked up about, was it?
About our enlightenment,
Christ,
the Christ
yeah,
consciousness.
Christ conscious or what? I forget, it was something.
Yeah. We asked the question a couple of weeks ago when he was crying, appearing to cry. Jay Witt said, "Do you think it's genuine?" And
No,
I was trying.
Said that. You said that.
I was trying to give him the benefit of the doubt. Like it maybe he really believes this stuff. But now when you realize that he has this griftiness in his past, is it a stretch of the imagination to think everything he's saying and doing now might just be more grift? And I don't think so. I don't think it's a stretch of the imagination.
It's sad that we have to even spend this long debunking.
Right.
It's crazy.
Well,
all you have to do is show me he's just like Ravi Zacharias was trying to make it like he was attended classes at Harvard or something.
Losing your voice, Jay.
Oxford. Just like Ravi Zacharias was trying to connect himself to Oxford University. And if that was found out to be, he had a false doctorate degree or whatever, he was claiming to be a doctor until people exposed that. Once you start seeing a person trumping up their expertise in such a way, and you find that it's false, that alone, like, discredits everything that they're all about in my eyes. Like, no more. There's no more need to fight and argue with such an individual. This person is first of all, it's a blatant appeal to authority. It's an attempt at saying, look, this prestigious institution has co-signed me, therefore you should find what I'm saying to be credible. And then your spidey sense should be activated when you see just how kind of off the beaten path what they're talking about is, and how unrelated it is to anything you could study at such an institution. You start looking at it, you're like, well, he's talking stuff that just regular, you could just go on YouTube and you see a physicist or somebody debunking the nonsense that he's talking about, but he's trying to attach himself to that. So is it likely that you just do a little digging, you find out, actually, he got a certificate or something? Well, he got a certificate. Go ahead.
Well, this is the thing. I think people have a love-hate relationship with academia. People who have not gone into academia, people who have not studied and completed programs, they have a love-hate relationship with academia because what they like is they like to think that somebody has gone through the training, but they also like to think that somebody has come out and has the balls or has the guts to go against what they were taught or go against.
It's rampant anti-intellectualism. It's anti-intellectualism.
Right. And so if Billy has gone to Harvard, but now he's coming out talking things that you probably wouldn't get from Harvard, you almost have the accreditation, but also you've got this almost like street accreditation or this common accreditation. But those who've actually gone through the process, those who've matriculated and graduated, you understand, even if you don't do well in college, you at least understand what it takes to do well. You know what it's like to have your papers graded by a professor who's not going to let you slide with BS. You try to fluff your way through a paper, it's a 7 to 10 page paper, and 2 pages of it is really good, and the other 8 pages is fluff, and your professor digs into you. You know what it's like to have somebody put that critical eye on your work. And when you come out of the academy, you know when somebody else has put in that time. So to have somebody else go and do an 8-week course and then come out like, oh yeah, I've been through it. It's like you ain't been through it. You don't even know the first thing about going through it.
It's like you know something's up when it's a person gets a certificate from. First of all, they purposefully go to Harvard because they want a certificate from there, so they can put it on their resume, on their website. And it's like
you value the name, but you don't value the actual product that you're saying you purchased from them.
And it's just they're being a little bit they're basically hiding behind the name Harvard, and they're intentionally being unclear about the nature of their study. Because if they were trying to be clear, they would say, instead of just saying generally, I studied at Harvard or something, you would say, I went to a certificate program.
Well, no, but see, let's give credit where it's due. The thing that JT just pulled up was from that forbidden knowledge at the top. I don't know if that was his CV or that was his webpage. That was Billy Carson's own publication where he spelled out. He didn't try to lie and say, hey.
He spelled it out?
He said, it's a certificate from Harvard.
My bad.
From MIT. So he says it.
So here's the question. Here's the question. If he spelled it out clearly in his CV and people are throwing around Harvard, is it just that people see Harvard and they just go nuts and start?
Well, like I said, if you've not gone through the academic process, you might not know what certificate versus diploma actually is. So, and I think there's something
a little silly, but okay.
Well, yeah, I think possibly he's even banking on people not necessarily knowing the difference between you did a certificate program versus you actually completed a course or you completed a degree program there.
Yeah, well, that would be really dishonest. I mean, who knows if that's what he's really banking on. I would hope people know the difference between getting a certificate for studying in a short couple weeks and an actual degree,
Like I said, if you've not gone, you may not even know. There are people who don't know the difference between an honorary doctorate degree and a doctorate degree.
Okay, yeah.
You know what I mean? Like that's just not part of your world. It's just not in your purview. Let me read a couple super chats real quick. Mo Wheat, thank you so much for the $9.99 super chat. Yes, all of this misinformation is killing Black folk. We have to stop following these charlatans from the religious to the financial. Great point. Yeah. Thank you so much.
I was just listening to something about another financial scheme that, it was Tulsa, some guy did like some Tulsa financial scheme, and I think it was between 11 and $13 million ripped off a bunch of Black folks. Crazy. Yeah, you have to, and the way these guys get over, I'm sorry, I don't want to go on a spill here, but the way they get over on people financially is the same way they do in the religion. It's the same. No, it's the same lack of
make that connection.
It's the same lack of critical thinking that allows a person to hand over to DJ Envy or allegedly hand over to these individuals tons of their money in these sort of get rich quick schemes, and then find themselves on the back end without the money they handed over. And
that's a whole episode right there. Because could you look at religion, especially the give to get kind of religion, as a potential, as a get rich quick scheme? It definitely is one for the ministers. They get rich quick, but even the people who are giving, they're at the lower level of this multi-level marketing scheme, but many of them are hoping to get rich quick. So rather than do the actual work, if I give my 10% or if I give over and above, and then God's going to open the windows of heaven and pour me out a blessing that I don't have room to receive.
Yeah, I just saw a comment where someone said, "We don't know who you are, Jay Witt." Look, I'm not trying to get money from anybody for anything. I'm out here giving you freely as I've received, freely I give. I'm not grifting anybody. I'm not selling anybody lies. So
that was a comment on this live chat.
Yeah.
All right. So Jay Witt was nice to you. We typically aren't going to be reading comments unless you're super chatting them. But somebody tried to get at his hidden identity.
You can't even reveal who you are. I can reveal who I am. We have a whole video about that. I don't want to reveal who I am. I don't want to reveal who I am. We're not going to go into that. But there are several reasons why I'm not doing that. But I'm upfront about not revealing who I am. Okay.
I got another super chat from SG. For those who don't know, SG is my younger sister, the younger of my two sisters, she's not younger than me. SG gave a $10 super chat, said, hey, just popping in for a sec. Spread
Awesome.
love and stay classy. Definitely, and I hope you're resting up and being well. Hope you don't mind me saying somebody rear-ended her car. She drives for her job, government job, and she got rear-ended at work, and so she's resting up and trying to heal up. So she would typically be getting ready for work right now, but she's home resting. So yes, get well, be well. Thank you for the $10 super chat. All right, so can we move on to Terrence Howard?
Absolutely.
Okay, so I'm definitely going to put the link for this video below. If you have not seen it yet, the video has over 1 million views. 1 million views so far. Professor Dave, aka Dave Farina, you may know him from doing debates and videos, being a science communicator on YouTube. He's done debates against James Tour. Just a great presenter and communicator, got a great YouTube channel. But he did a video talking about Terrence Howard, and the video is basically, video is called something to the effect of Terrence Howard is insane. And he's just walking through the non-scientific things that Terrence Howard has said.
I watched a video where someone called Terrence a nincompoop.
There's a couple great videos that people have done. Really good videos that people have done in the last week. One of the good things, and they brought this up in the video that you mentioned to me, Jay, with from Cronin, and I forget the other guy's name, but one of the things that people are saying, at least what Terrence Howard is doing, it's making people think about science outside of the classroom. Many people haven't thought about these terms since they were in high school or middle school, the periodic table. So even if Terrence Howard is miscommunicating and saying wrong things, it's giving these science communicators a chance to say, hey, wait. He's wrong, but let me tell you why we know he's wrong. Here's what we do know about the elements. Here's what we do know about. And so these science communicators are excited because they're getting a chance to correct his misinformation and educate people about, yo, pat us on the back as humanity. Here's how far we've come in understanding our world. Terrence Howard is saying he's going to take us even further because we were going in the wrong direction. We don't necessarily have to buy that, but let's just look at how far we've come, how far we've gone in the direction we've gone with our science inquiry. And let me just say this last point that you can say that. When I say the religious thinking versus scientific thinking, I want to be clear. I'm not saying science is always right. This is not a plea for science. This is an appeal towards scientific thinking. There's a scientific way to think. The sum total of that thinking produces good science. But I'm not saying science is never wrong, science is always right, science is our savior. I'm saying the scientific method of thinking is better than the religious way of thinking. And I'm going to tell you why, even though Billy Carson, even though Terrence Howard is not talking religion, I'm going to tell you why it actually is a religious way of thinking that has people buying into what they're saying. So go ahead, David. Sorry about that.
Well, yeah, the only thing I was going to say was after I saw some of the very thorough and just exhaustive critiques of his appearance on Joe Rogan, I felt like, initially I was pretty excited to address some of the Terrence Howard stuff, and then I saw how well so many of the scientists, the physicists and stuff have just debunked him thoroughly. I was like, oh, I don't know if we have much to contribute to the conversation. I mean, did you get that feeling too after seeing some of the videos? I watched about 2 of them.
Yeah,
and they were so good and thorough.
Yeah, and just to be clear, what we're about to get into is not going to try to take apart any of Terrence Howard's claims.
Yeah.
So yeah, I'm not even going to. I'm not a scientist. I'm not a chemist, a biologist, physicist. I'm not any of that. Neither is Terrence Howard. But I'm not any of that, so I'm not going to try to take that apart. The reason why I like Professor Dave's video is because he begins to get into why the way Terrence Howard is communicating without any kind of education, any real earned authority, why that's dangerous and why people buying into it is dangerous. And so I don't know if I felt like, oh, there's really not much for us to say, because I was thinking about a completely different angle on why Terrence Howard even matters right now.
Yeah. Yep. And I think you communicated as much to me.
Yeah.
So that was why I was like, all right.
Yo, I'm excited because both of my sisters are in the chat. So what's up, both of y'all? I invited my one sister, Ty, to actually call in. I'm going to flash the numbers in a minute, because Ty, you let me know whether or not it's cool to do this. You had a discussion on your page today where you asked people to share some things, and I screenshotted a bunch of what they would share, because I felt like those were things that I actually want to, I want to tie into tonight's program if they fit, and we'll actually see if they do. But Ty, if you want to call in, I'll put the number on the screen, because you, I think, are going to go to bat for some things that I would probably say we probably need to be more skeptical about. And you probably know what I'm talking about. Sorry for those of you who are like, what are y'all talking about? It'll become clear in a second.
What did the apostle say? You think on these things, and and later it'll be revealed to you, right?
Yeah. I want to share this for those who don't follow me on Facebook. A Christian friend, I guess I call him a friend. When I deconverted, this guy actually drove from Nashville up to Philadelphia. I'd never met this person in real life, as far as I know. Maybe I met him at a show, I don't know. He drove up from Nashville, Tennessee to Philadelphia to meet with me about my deconversion, because he just wanted to hear me out. So I invited him to come up, stayed at my house for the night. We talked, and he and I have been going back and forth on Facebook for the last 2 years. I got love for the brother because he's a very genuine, just, like, how can you not have love for somebody who's got this kind of heart? But at the same time, he thinks with a very religious mind. And he's part of the reason why I wanted to do this show tonight, because I think there's something in the way that he's thinking that is, I think it's dangerous. So I'm going to share the screenshot. This is Carlos is the guy I was just talking about. But, another guy named Bradley James posted this a few days ago. He said, "Who knew Terrence Howard was such a brilliant mind? Man, mind blown emoji. I can sit under this dude learning tree all day. Wow." And then Carlos chimed in and said, "Shocked the mess out of me." And then he says, "Some dude in TikTok tried to debunk what Terrence Howard was saying, only to have what he was saying debunked by other people." And just to see that this is how people are taking in what Terrence Howard is saying, I couldn't just let this roll off my back. I couldn't just say, let other people just debunk him and move on, because people that I know and people that I've grown to care about are looking at what Terrence Howard is saying, there's somebody out there who's got a different take on reality that we need to be paying attention to. And I'm like, no, you don't. You don't pay enough attention to reality as it is, which is why you're clinging to your faith the way that you are. And now here comes this guy saying some other nonsense that you're willing to cling to with no evidence to support it. So that sort of is the setup. I'm going to play this clip from Professor Dave. Once again, I edited this Professor Dave's clip. His video is about 45 minutes or so. I shaved this down so we can stop it wherever we want. These are just short clips from Professor Dave that'll give us things to talk about. And then we can open up the lines if we want to get a call. So here he is. You won't see Professor Dave, I think, until the end, but this is his edited reaction or response to Terrence Howard.
But something tells me that in reality, he's been watching some electric universe frauds on YouTube, and now he thinks he's smarter than Einstein.
And we've come to find that the universe, they are abandoning the standard model.
So I stopped it right there just to highlight. Professor Dave jumped in and he says, it seems like Terrence Howard has been watching other people's content. And Professor Dave got very popular on YouTube and TikTok because he was arguing with flat earthers. And he was demonstrating to flat earthers why what they were saying doesn't make any sense. How we know that the earth is a sphere and not flat. Well, Professor Dave has gone back and forth with a number of people who've got these very fringe ideas. So he's hearing Terence Howard and saying, Terence Howard is not just coming out to you saying, hey guys, look what I've discovered. Terence Howard is leaning on information that he's getting from other people. So listen to what Professor Dave says, and then listen to what Terence Howard says. Play it again.
Me that in reality he's been watching some electric universe frauds on YouTube, and now he thinks he's smarter than Einstein.
And we've come to find that the universe, they are abandoning the standard model.
Who is the we that Terence Howard is talking about there? We've come to find that they're abandoning the standard model of the universe. You got to ask yourself, who is his we? This is not just him making up stuff. This is not just him being a genius in his own mind. He's getting some of this, at least some of it, if not all of it. He's getting it from somewhere. There's a reason why he thinks he has legs to stand on, and it's not his own legs. There are fringe people out there with these fringe ideas, putting these ideas out there into the YouTube verse. And Terence Howard has imbibed this stuff, and now he's regurgitating it for you. So for the people who think, man, I could just sit under this dude's learning tree all day, it's not just his tree you're sitting under. The nuggets that he's dropping have dropped from other trees. And you need to find out what's the root of the tree that he's getting this stuff from. Maybe he's quoting quacks, and you don't want to be quoting somebody who's quoting quacks. Think about that.
Well, it's important to notice that.
Sorry, go ahead.
It's important to notice that the overlap, the reason why this is one of the main reasons I think this is really relevant to Christians is because anything that discredits the established science, which says the book they believe in is basically, which discredits Romans 4 and 5 science, says that Adam didn't exist, that iteration of whatever they're trying to give you there in the book is not factual. And a lot of people who are believers will get behind anybody who's trying to take down the science that has more or less been proven, which takes down their book. So it's like even if you're the enemy of my enemy is my friend in that sense. And it's like, look, I don't like what science has done. They've made us look like fools all over YouTube in the classroom. They've been able to pull out all of their measuring devices and everything. They've been able to do all sort of carbon dating, etc., to prove their thesis, which has overturned my book. So if I can turn around and I can find a champion that is challenging science as we know it, to say that science as we know it might be a hoax, fraud, then that person, however ridiculous what they're saying is my friend. Yeah. Because they're challenging the very science that challenges what it is that I believe in. And that's why it's a thing. That's why a lot of the people who believe the flat earth and all this stuff, is it just incidental that they're Christians a lot of times? Is it just incidental? Or is it the fact that because they are challenging established known science, they are friends to they're friends to sinners.
Hey, your voice is going is not getting back to where it was before, where we couldn't hear you, but it is getting kind of muffled at times.
It's getting muffled. Yeah, I'm sorry. That might be is this better? Is this pretty clear?
You'd have to talk for a while for me to see. I'll let you know in the next.
Well, yeah, you can play the video anyway. I was probably going on.
No, you're cool. So here goes more. This is from Professor Dave, just grabbing clips of Terence Howard and talking about what Terence is talking about.
You have to remember, our entire world economy is based on 1 × 1 = 1.
Yeah, our entire economy is based on 1 × 1 = 1. Well, economics does involve numbers, so it should obey the basic logic surrounding numbers that even children can understand. So what's the problem?
So if you can prove that an action times an action equals a reaction, which science proves, then 1 × 1 must equal more than 1.
I said this to somebody today on Facebook. if you've got to go past this to find things to make you say, I probably shouldn't be listening to this guy, the guy says 1 times 1 must equal more than 1.
I'll do you one better, Brady. Any man who wears that blazer that looks like he's in the future or he's off of Star Trek or something, you're not getting my ear. That blazer, you don't know something you should know if you put that blazer on.
Hey, some people could probably pull that blazer off. So
Hey. I guess he's living in the future in some sense. He's got a blazer on that's from the year 2078.
That's not futuristic. That's I don't know how far back in the past you've got to go to not be able to put one time is going to give you 1.
Yeah.
1, 2 times is going to give you 2. For him not to be able to put
the fact that we're discussing this is crazy.
I know, but I mean, come on. But there's a reason why we're discussing this. I just showed you the Facebook post from the guy that says I could sit under this dude's tree of knowledge all day. Who knew he was such a genius?
Maybe he needs to enroll in the college and sit in a seat in college instead of sitting under a tree with Terence Howard teaching,
But for anybody who needs more than this to say, why am I listening to this guy? You've got to ask yourself, what is it that's driving you to need more than this?
I think I answered it. I think a lot of people, they will champion whoever they believe can take down science.
Yeah.
I'm serious when I say
well, especially in a post-COVID world, right? COVID turned a lot of people who may have been ambivalent about science before into armchair scientists, right? Exactly. Let me give a shout out real quick. Thurgood is back with another $99.99 super chat.
Good.
Keep it up, B and J Wick. Great work, brothers. Thanks, hey, listen, man, we're gonna have to find some kind of way to honor you for the way you've been supporting this channel.
The Lord's gonna bless you, brother.
No, we definitely appreciate you. We definitely appreciate you.
We do.
So much.
We do.
Yes. More here. Let's try to get through.
And to have the physical proof of it, that kind of shakes things up a bit.
Professor Dave just completely broke down the non-physical proof of the example Terrence gave about an action times an action. How are you multiplying it by? Anyway, nonsense, but more here.
Exist in general. The term was coined by Faraday in the 19th century. This is the problem with science-illiterate morons like Terry. They have no respect for science whatsoever. They have no interest in learning basic scientific principles, the history of science, what any scientist did, what scientists are doing now, how to do science. None of it. They are singularly obsessed with the lofty idea of one brilliant insight that can change the world. It doesn't matter what it's called. That's why he keeps saying grand unified field equation, because it doesn't mean.
Why'd you laugh? I had a thought, but why'd you laugh?
I was just laughing at his graphics.
Okay.
I was just laughing. Yeah.
He talked about people who are blown away by the idea of this one, somebody's going to have this one brilliant idea, this one unified equation, or one little. Here's why I think there's something religious about the way people have flocked to a Billy Carson or a Terrence Howard. Here's the main differences between the religious thinking and the scientific thinking. Religion says we're looking for someone to be our savior. We're looking for Moses to come down the mountain with tablets. We're looking for Jesus to come back. We're looking for Muhammad. We're looking for somebody to come, somebody who's going to have an experience that we can't personally have ourselves, but they had it. They're going to tell us about it, and they're going to tell us how to get it. And what they're going to tell us is going to be something that we can do to get what they got, but it's not going to be something that is just common knowledge. It's got to be something that's beyond our reach. And that chosen person is going to go get it and bring it to us. The difference, though, with science is not one person's going to be able to do it and no one else is going to be able to do it and they're going to bring it down the mountain. No, even if somebody has a breakthrough, that one person is going to go to the community and say, hey, here's what I think I found. See if you can discredit it. See if you can find the same thing. See if we can build consensus. See if we can get a cross-disciplinary model for how this actually works. See if this thing has explanatory power. See if we can make predictions based on this. Religion, you get prophecies, no predictions. You can't predict what's going to happen and then watch it happen with religion. With what Terrence is saying here, what can he predict is going to happen? With what Billy Carson is telling you, what can you predict is going to happen? It's not scientific at all. And Jay, but you said something I'd like you to speak on. You said it's almost like what Terence Howard in his, there's a clip that's coming up that I probably should have waited to say this, but you'll see it in a second. Terence Howard is going to tie this into religion in a second. Billy Carson ties this into the Christ consciousness. And Jay Witt, you said to me on the phone, you said it's almost as if they realized, I'm going to paraphrase, you didn't say it this way, but I'm going to say it this way, but you'll remember in a second. You said it's almost as if they realized that science was not sexy enough on its own. And so science needed a little bit of religion to make it more attractive. Remember when you said that?
Vaguely, yes. I remember. Yeah.
Can you say more along those lines?
No, I think I don't want to overwhelm them. No, I think you just said it enough. Like I think you said enough.
I wanted it with that Jay Witness.
Yeah, I would hate to try to recreate it and not quite say it the way. That's why a lot of times.
Let me just explain to y'all.
We gotta get off.
Let me explain to y'all what happens in me and Jay Witt's conversation. We'll be talking on the phone, and he'll get going, and I'll try to stop him. Like, no. Don't tell me now. Save it for Tuesday night. Because I don't want what.
Indeed, what is it? Is it like was it the book of, I believe it was Mark, where he's like, he did many things, but if we were to write all the things, the whole, none of the books in the world all of the books in the world can contain them. Indeed, the stuff that happens on the phone outside of it, you guys are just getting the tip of the iceberg. Like, truly. And we've gotten to the point where I try to not call him as much. We used to speak every day. And I've basically tried to clip it because we got to save it. We got to save some for later, Augustus. That's a quote from Willy Wonka. Save some for later, Augustus. We got to save some for the folks on Ichabod, so y'all get some of the goodies.
If Jay Witt can't remember, I basically did just say it, but I do think that was a great point that you made. What these brothers have done is they've taken scientific language that most people did not do well in their science, their high school science classes or in college. You didn't do well in chemistry. You didn't do well in your labs. Most people did not. I know I didn't. I passed science with a D. I passed geometry with a D. So most people don't even know a lot of these things. So if you can take some of these terminology and make it seem like you know what you're talking about, and then marry it to religious language that people are familiar with, that people do, they may not want to keep their Christianity, that they're deconstructing, they're deconverting, but there's something about it that— It's a
kind of syncretism.
Please, go ahead, please.
No, I mean, it's a kind of syncretism. You're taking—
For those who don't even know what that is, break that down.
No, you go ahead and break it down.
No, come on, man.
I like the tag teaming. Or you want me to talk more?
Because I've been talking a lot. Go ahead.
Okay, yeah. In religion, syncretism, you might go down to let's give you a concrete example. If you go down to what they call Latin America, I don't know what the phrasing, maybe the PC phrasing has changed now, but you might go there and you find native religion mixed in with the Catholicism. That's actually, incidentally, since we started off with glossolalia or speaking in tongues, that's essentially what happened with the Pentecostal religion in America, which was Black slaves mixed in some of their practices, their religious practices, right, with Christianity. That was
some of the West African cultural religion, spirituality, ancestor worship, some of the rituals. They mixed that into Christianity, and that's how you kind of got the more charismatic version of Christianity.
Yeah.
Syncretism.
And incidentally, whenever you have syncretism, there are going to be some people who say that the syncretism is heterodox, because it, by very nature of what it is a mix of— go ahead. I can see it. Look like
I'm only thinking for people who don't know what heterodoxy is, and if you can try to get directly in that mic, because you're going back and forth.
Okay, I think I know what the problem is, but go ahead. Go ahead. Explain heterodox. I'm going to turn this air conditioner off.
Right. So heterodoxy is orthodoxy is right practice or right religion, right belief. Heterodoxy is what certain schools of thought in Christianity. If your belief is
Am I clearer now?
you are.
Is this clear? Okay,
Yeah.
yeah.
If your belief is other than what orthodoxy is, they would call that heterodoxy, meaning you have an other belief. You have a belief that is other than what we say is right belief or right practice. And Jay Witt is saying, whenever you have syncretism, so I talk about the Jews, right? Early Christianity, I believe, was Jews or someone trying to make the Jewish religion and Greco-Roman mythology one and the same. They syncretized the two. They made it so that you can believe all of it at the same time. That's syncretism.
Some of our holidays like Christmas and so forth, they are actually a result of that. Syncretism is inevitable. This is the other thing. And this is Brady was formerly a hip hop evangelist. That's a form of syncretism. He's taking syncretism doesn't always have to be two of the same things. It's just you're actually marrying one thing with another. So he's taken a culture of hip hop, married it with Christianity, and come up with a blend that actually ends up being a unique kind of form of or expression of Christianity.
So that was a long way of example just to say what Terence Howard is doing and what Billy Carson is doing, even though we haven't shown Terence Howard do it yet. I got to get back to this video, is blending scientific terminology, even if not real science, with religious ideology. That's syncretism. And that's why a lot of people can embrace it, because you feel like you're getting the best of both worlds. What you might actually be getting is neither of either of the worlds, because you're not getting the true religion and you're not getting true science.
Yeah, it ends up being like fusion jazz, which is just not like smooth jazz, is what we'll say, which is pretty much bad pop and bad jazz together. So, like a lot of times when you blend them up, like you say, you end up with some sort of hydra or something. Like you think of was it a liger?
That's a great. When you think you're getting a hybrid, but you're getting a hydra. It's you're not blending the two at all. You're getting something completely different. All right, let's get back.
If you notice, when you put a lion and a tiger together, it can't produce any offspring. You get this huge animal that can't produce offspring.
Yeah.
So you go ahead.
All right.
I don't even believe I addressed the thing you asked me, but anyway, it was.
It's good. Here goes his whole his pseudo religion is right here.
What's going on, Brady? Brady?
Yep.
Can you hear me?
Yeah.
It looks like you think that it's playing. Is it playing?
Oh, wait. Are you serious? It wasn't playing the whole time?
Yeah. No, at some point I had to, folks are sitting here looking at a blank screen.
Okay, I'm sorry. I forgot I stopped sharing my screen.
Yeah.
Sorry about that, y'all. It happens. I can imagine y'all were like, what is going on right now?
Yeah, there you go.
Everything is just one.
Okay. You see him, right?
Yep. Indeed.
Okay.
You can hear me pretty clearly now, right?
Yeah.
Okay, so it was Daisy.
Okay.
Everything is just one great being. We're all God. That's what Jesus was talking about. That's what Buddha was talking about. It's recognizing the divinity in you.
Actually, neither of those people said anything like that. Buddha didn't proclaim to be divine, and in Christian mythology, Jesus didn't say, "I'm God and so are all of you." He just said that he was God. That's kind of why the Romans killed him. Terry is just looking for excuses to call himself God.
So there you have it. Him trying to find ways to let me use something as my bait to suck you in, to reel you in to why you should
I
adopt
feel like
these
that
other
wasn't
things that
too
I'm saying.
charitable. I feel like
What,
that wasn't too charitable, the way
what do you
he
mean?
ended that. He's looking for, like, both his tone and what he was saying. I don't think you could say
Well,
that.
one of the things about Dave is he can be kind of, yeah, he can be kind of bitey with his.
I just think it's important for us to be fair. And I would have to be judging Terrence's motives if I said he might actually believe that we are all, and he never said I'm God, like, aside from it. He said we're all in this one being. So it's still BS, but yeah, there's no need to be.
His point is Terence Howard has a messiah complex. He thinks he's going to save the world with his science.
Yeah. You can say that by a bunch of other stuff he's actually said, though. You don't have to, like, put words in his mouth and this.
Fair point. I do want to get to the end of why Dave says this is so why this is so important that we actually pay attention to how Terence Howard is talking and how we're accepting what he's saying. But I want to read the super chat. I got a super chat from my sister, a $10 super chat from Ty Goodwin. Says, someone kind of smart I know once wrote, everybody wants to be, but nobody wants to become. She's referring to a lyric of mine, an old song of mine called We Were They. I'm trying to think what we've said that maybe you're talking about, we were talking about education, maybe. People who are, people who want to have the appearance of being educated, but they're really not. Is that what that applies to? I think so, maybe. I'm liking it. But thank you so much for the super chat, sis. And you said, by the way, the number didn't come through. I'm going to put the number in the chat. I think I'll put it in the chat now because I'm going to play this last clip from Dave and then maybe invite a call or two. Give me a second to pull it up and put it in the chat. All right. All right, here goes the last clip of Dave talking about why this is so dangerous, potentially dangerous. And this part is long, so we don't have to play the whole thing. We can stop it whenever we feel like we've had enough.
He doesn't even know the names of the elements orthogonal. And all the experts are morons because the symbol still has over normal people.
Sorry, I'm just looking for the right part. Okay, I'm going to dive in here.
The whole establishment is against me because they're afraid of my truth.
He's paraphrasing the way Terence Howard presents himself as the scientist that people like Neil deGrasse Tyson and others. They don't really want to sit and talk with him because he would disprove a lot of what they have based their careers on.
Honestly, I think we've had enough. I got 2 hours into the 3-hour podcast, and there's just no point in continuing. It's the epitome of manic hogwash with virtually nothing to even sink your teeth into, and there's only so many times I can point out that what he's saying is meaningless. In the end, there's only one point that needs to be made. Pretentious tools like Terry can hope to fool as many people as they can by speaking confidently and using jargon they hope the listener doesn't understand. But what can they do with it? What can they physically achieve with it? Terry thinks he's reinvented physics, but that's because he never learned any physics in the first place. Take this free body problem, for example. This is something he was supposed to learn in high school. You use Newton's laws, plug in some numbers, and you get an answer that correlates with reality. You can predict what will happen when you let go of the block. And guess what? When you let go of the block, that thing does happen. Terry's gibberish doesn't have that power. His ramblings have no utility.
I say this to people all the time. I've got people who are trying to convince me that aliens are in the world, and the kind of messages that I get from people on a regular basis. And I'm saying, you know what, even if you actually do think that this is real and I'm looking for actionable intel. I'm looking for what can we actually do with the things that you're saying. And one of the points that Dave makes is the things that Terence Howard is saying, we can't actually do anything with it. Whereas when you look at the field of whether it be physics or whether it be biology or chemistry, we've done so many things with the information that the data that we have. What can you do with what Terence Howard is saying? That's one of the problems that people need to pay attention to is you got this guy who's trying to upend the entire scientific community. What has he done with any of the things that he's saying? Can he demonstrate that what he's saying is useful, that it has, like Dave said, any utility whatsoever? And so far, the only utility that Terence Howard's claims seem to have is getting him in the public discussion. That's what it's been useful for. What utility does Billy Carson's claim have? It's been useful for getting people to buy his books. What other utility does any of it have? That's a question that you should be asking about anytime somebody comes to you with new science, new philosophy, new religion, new claims about how we could manifest the reality of what we want to see in the world. Like, what utility does it have? Thoughts, Jay Witt? I'm posting the number in the chat right now. For anybody who says, I think I got something I want to share on this, the number is in the chat right now. So for anybody who thinks you have a comment, that preferably I'm looking for comments that are, if you're just going to co-sign, we don't necessarily need cosigns. If you just call and say amen, you guys are on it, cool. But I'm actually looking for somebody who's got conversation. You disagree. You think we're being too hard on Billy Carson, on Terence Howard, not fair? Are we being too logical, too scientific, too something or not enough something else? Those are the calls I'm looking for. Number is in the chat. I'm gonna play a bit more, unless Jay Witt has something to say there.
No. Covered it. Like I said, this kind of stuff. Like I don't, these dudes. I tried to. I remember putting on Joe Rogan's podcast when the Terrence Howard thing dropped because people were talking about it. I couldn't even.
We're losing your voice, Jay Witt.
I don't believe I made it through even 3 minutes of the Joe Rogan podcast with Terrence Howard. I don't think it was even 2 minutes. Wow. I'm low energy when it comes to guys like him, Billy Carson, and
all right.
All right.
I'll play a little bit more real quick just to get him on. And I think I see a call coming in, so I'm only going to play a little bit of this.
No predictive power, no technological application. It's a part.
Like I said a while ago, predictive power. That's one of the things that we look for. Predictive power. You say this is how the world works. I do these things to be okay, to make the world the way I want it to be. What predictive power do your claims have? He's saying Howard's have
that power. His ramblings have no utility, no predictive power, no technological application. It's a parlor trick. It's basically hypnotism. But as I mentioned before, it's not harmless. This way of thinking is dangerous. And
once again, think about what he just said. It's a parlor trick. It's hypnotism. It's, I'm going to say these words that you may not even know what I'm talking about. Your eyes glaze over. If you watch Joe Rogan on that podcast, you see Joe Rogan, like he literally says, man, I wish I could just understand what you're saying. Like he wasn't trying to insult Joe Rogan. He was like, I know you know what you're talking about, but I just don't get it. I wish I could understand. That's part of the hypnotism. I'm going to make your.
I think I do have something to interject here. If I could.
Okay.
I have something like. I think I'm generally really saddened, truly saddened that we have to spend this kind of energy debunking people like Terrence Howard because people are this credulous. It just
lost your words. Lost your words. People are this what?
It's credulous. It really genuinely saddens me that we live in a society where, they have people arguing about the earth being flat, and we're in the 21st century, something that I really get saddened. I'm just like, it just really brings me down that this is the level of conversation, and that this is for anyone who was like, oh, why are you Jay Witt? Why are you in witness protection? Why are you in witness protection? Why don't you reveal it? Because our society is full of these morons. It's full, like I live in a society full of like moronic people. People who, if you try to ask them to substantiate certain claims, they just get angry and maybe assume that you're a horrible person because you don't believe in their magic book or you don't believe in whatever else they believe. And this is the
And
reason
of
why
course, yeah. Finish
and
that.
I say when I say moronic, I'm somebody
Yeah.
might say, oh, you're throwing around an insult or whatever. But this is like the word moronic has an actual meaning, and it's aptly applied to this kind of discussion. Like the fact that he's getting on a podcast and stringing it together sentences that literally don't mean
Yeah.
anything.
Yeah.
And then we have to devote hours of our time. Well, we don't have to, but you see a guy like this scientist who has to put together a whole video trying to display how this
Yeah.
guy doesn't even understand what 1 times 1
Yeah.
this is insane. These are
Well,
things that you learn when you're in
well, like Jay Witt
second
said,
grade.
people
This
are
is
very
crazy.
credulous, and people are, I think, for anybody who might get offended at the term, because Professor Dave called Terence Howard a moron. But even if you get offended by that, what we're at least saying is a lot of us don't have a good system for how we're going to vet claims.
I get a little annoyed with the whole people getting offended by words that are like an adjective that's
Right.
aptly used. Like
I hear you.
when you say 1 times 1 is like the common understanding of it is wrong, that's moronic.
I hear you. I hear you.
And it's
I hear you.
it's also an insult. Like it's also let's make no mistake, people do use moron as an insult, but it's not incorrect to say that that's
No,
a
Jay Witt,
moronic kind
I
of
hear
thing.
you.
And
I'm
now I'm
going
not
to,
even I wasn't even debating with you on that. I wasn't saying
right.
you were wrong and trying to.
But
I'm just saying like,
I just want
yeah,
people to know if you have an issue with that, Jay, with your point notwithstanding, for the person who says, well, I'm just making a different point. I want to get to these calls because we got a few of them lined up now. I'm just trying to get this point out though, that I think the softer version of what Jay Witt is saying for me is I don't think very many people have a good way for how they're going to vet claims. And a lot of people don't even know that they have a poor standard for vetting claims, which is why you ended up being religious in the first place, because you did not have a good way to vet claims. We got 3 calls coming in. So let's see if we can try to get through them and make sure we get all of them real quick. All right. First come, first serve.
Because you did not have a good way to vet claims.
Okay, you're on with Jay Witt, and be good if you can mute your computer or laptop. Yep.
Yeah, can you guys hear me?
Yeah. Tell us if you can.
All
You
right,
don't
cool.
have to, but you could tell us who you are and where you're calling from. You don't have to tell us any of that if you don't want to. If people are not trying to put their business out there.
Yep. So I've called in before. This is my name is Joe, man. So we're friends on Facebook and whatnot. I've interacted with you guys before. So I just wanted to call in. I don't necessarily disagree with anything you guys have said. It's more so my biggest issue is I still feel like when you step away from religion, you feel like, okay, you're a free thinker. You're thinking critically. You're able to, you're not stuck in a groupthink type mindset anymore. But I feel like that's not necessarily true. I feel like everybody is still appealing to some type of authority. And for example, atheists will claim that, they appeal to the scientific method, but in reality, they're deferring to the scientists. When you say things like, okay, I don't really understand this, but this person has, put in this much time in this field, they understand what they're talking about, I'm just going to take their word for it. You're still appealing to that authority. You're not appealing to the scientific method because you don't know what method was actually used to come to the conclusions that they've come to. So the scientist has a level of education and practice within their field, but they also contain the same human traits and hang-ups as everybody else. the desire and need, you know, or trend towards tribalism and groupthink, it's just deeply embedded in all of us. So what do you do to vet, you know, the scientists that we are ascribing most of our, you know what I mean, like the people that have the authority, the scientific authority? What do you do to vet that, vet them?
Great question. For clarification, I would say, so somebody like me, I'm not a chemist, I'm not a biologist, I'm not a physicist, I'm not an astrophysicist, I'm not a cosmologist. I'm not appealing to the scientists. I'm relying on the scientists who are using a scientific method. So I'm not appealing to the scientists per se. But this is why I said what I said a minute ago, to underscore Professor Dave's. Am I still sharing my screen? I shouldn't be. Sorry. To underscore Professor Dave's point, the utility, like if a scientist told me, like I'll never forget, when I was in my process of trying to figure out, okay, I'm deconverting from Christianity. Can I defend why I don't believe this anymore? I'll never forget, I was watching an interview between Sam Harris and Francis Collins, right? Sam Harris is an atheist. Francis Collins is a Christian biologist, or geneticist, I should say, and an evolutionist. And I remember I was reading through these Christians' works. One of the things that you have to do, and forgive me if this is a long answer, Jay, but you probably have something much more pithy that you can just get ready to say in a second. But one of the reasons that I was willing to embrace evolution was when I saw Christians who had no real reason to accept it other than it being true, and every reason to reject it because it goes against what they believe, what their text tells them happened in the beginning. So you could begin to vet the people that you're going to rely on by trying to say, why would this person lie? Sometimes they would have a good reason for lying. Sometimes you can say there's no reason for this person to lie because this is not in their own best interest to accept this claim.
But I think what it is. Yeah, go ahead.
Another way to vet, because you asked, how do I vet the scientists? Another way to vet them is when they're able to, like Professor Dave just said, do something with what you're claiming. Does it have any utility? So the Sam Harris and Francis Collins conversation, Francis Collins had spent over a decade working on trying to find which cells were responsible, or which genes were responsible for triggering a certain condition. And when they found that, they were able to turn those genes off in a person's DNA. And so they began to use that same research to trigger or to find which genes in a person were responsible for a certain cancer and to target those genes and turn them off. So in this conversation, I said all this to get to this point right here. Sam Harris, an atheist, was able to say to Francis Collins, the Christian, he says, hey, when Christopher Hitchens, the famous atheist, was diagnosed with throat cancer, Sam Harris said to Francis Collins, you got to know Christopher Hitchens in the last couple of years of his life. You two became good friends, even though you were on separate sides. And then Sam Harris said this, I appreciate what you were able to do for him while he was dying. And Francis Collins says, yeah, you know, the research that we had done on cancer and finding the right gene to do this, that, and the third, that actually bought Christopher Hitchens a few more months of his life. So here you have a Christian and a non-Christian talking about what this Christian's research in gene therapy had done for this atheist. And you have a Christian and a non-Christian talking about how this gene therapy underscores the theory of evolution. Those are the kinds of things that make you say, okay, yes, I'm not a scientist. I'm not a biologist or geneticist or any of that. But you're producing results that I can't go and say, that's not how you extended Christopher Hitchens' life. No, you did it through some other way. You're telling me this is how you did it, and you've got a field of scientists saying, that's what we did. Then you have me, the non-scientist, saying, That's how I vet these kinds of claims. That's my process.
Right. Yeah, and that's a good process. The problem that comes with that is that every scenario is not that cut and dry. Like, for example, and this of course is going to be a touchy subject, but Joe Rogan has had a numerous amount of people on both sides of any argument on his podcast to, display whether it's the mainstream scientific views of certain things versus, maybe super fringe or like just absolutely ridiculous people. And I remember he had Robert Malone, who was, I don't know if he's a geneticist or something of that nature, but it was around the time when COVID was happening and they were kind of putting in mandates for us to get the shots and things of that nature. Mm-hmm. And Robert Malone was known to have worked on mRNA vaccines. And so he had tons of research, tons of accolades, things of that nature, but he was actually blackballed by the scientific community because of some of his research and findings were diametrically opposed to the standard. You understand what I'm saying? So when you have two opposing sides that have the credentials, then you run into it's kind of like a catch-22. Okay, how are we vetting at that point? Then you have a scientist versus a scientist. We have a highly credentialed person versus another highly credentialed person. And then it just looks like a bunch of tribalism on one side. So you got to kind of put in, okay, how's the human psychology playing into this whole thing? You know what I mean? Like, are all of these science? You know what I mean? Like, yeah, so it is a very tangled web.
I hear you, Jay. I want to hear Jay Witt's response, and then we got 2 other calls. I want to get to those 2 calls. Sure. So appreciate the question, and hopefully that response goes some way towards answering. But Jay Witt, how would you say if somebody says we're all just appealing to different authorities, why appeal to X scientists versus Y scientists? Jay Witt, any thoughts on how you vet or
the problem with the world we live in now is there is rampant democratization of expertise in people's minds. And I believe that democratization of communication should not equal democratization of expertise. And there's a reason why I believe in deferring to experts in a field. It's because sometimes their expertise requires them to know things that I couldn't possibly even have the tools to vet whether what they're saying is accurate or not. That's why we defer to them. It's the same reason why when you go in for you go to a cardiologist to have your heart operated, you don't just the boundless skepticism is it's a disease of our society. When you go to a cardiologist to get your heart operated on, they can explain to you their process, but it's not my place to tell him, well, I don't think based on what this other person said, and I don't have any expertise in that field. So I just have to entrust. Yes, I do believe in entrusting myself to trained, educated experts in a field. That's a normal thing we do all the time. Every time we get on it, we board a plane. We don't get into the cockpit. We don't go in the front with a pilot and say, hey, what's this? Let me do my research. What is your research? Your research is as good as your education in the matter, which is none. It's null. If you don't have any education, your research on the matter on Google, which is going to probably be biased Google searches, is only going to produce an echo chamber. So you have to. Expertise is not democratized. There is a such thing as a person went and spent nearly a decade in education and learned about. And so, yes, you will have fringe actors within certain fields who will have gone through the education, and they will be a maverick, and they will be ostracized by the group, and they shouldn't be trusted because there are too many experts that are on the other side of the argument. That's not finished with what I'm saying. I'm not finished with what I'm saying. I'm saying that the consensus within a field is what determines what is expert opinion in that field. You don't go with the fringe just because, and you say, oh, look at what happened to Isaac Newton. They say, look what happened with Isaac Newton. But Isaac Newton was able to show the work that disproved his detractor.
Absolutely.
If a person is looking at, if we're having this argument over Terence Howard, this is absurd. I mean, Terence Howard has absolutely,
man. That's the problem is communication, lack of communication.
I sat and listened to you. maybe I'm talking passionately. Maybe I need to lower the tone. But what I'm saying is, Billy Carson, Terence Howard, these are people with no expertise in physics. They have no training. And so just because they're butting against the establishment, that doesn't mean I should, that's what I'm talking about when I'm saying democratization of expertise. Let me lower the tone. I don't want you to think this is not a personal thing. This is
not at all.
It's a nuisance
You're just
to
real
me.
passionate.
Yeah, and it's a nuisance to me in society because it's deteriorating our ability. We don't even you have Donald Trump, for instance, who runs for president. Fake news. He can just say the phrase fake news, and now he's just discredited every credible source of news. Every person who does the actual field work, who does the research, and then puts together an article. And if they have a misquote, they will do an editorial the following newspaper and say, hey, we misquoted. He's just discredited the whole enterprise of doing research and real reporting by just throwing out a term. And then you have a whole nation full of people who are like, all right, we can't trust the news. We can't. And I can trust this person's Twitter account just as much as a journalist who went to school. Give me a break.
All right.
Right. No, I agree with I got you. I got you. I didn't want to. I know that y'all got to get to the next calls, but I just, if possible, can I just say a few things to what Jay Wood was saying?
Can you say one thing? Because these people. One thing.
Okay. So you had brought up, okay, if you go to a cardiologist, I'm not going to second guess the cardiologist if they say such. That's not the way this works, though, man. You go to a cardiologist, and if they don't tell you, if something doesn't set right with you, you go get a second opinion. Like, that's what we're talking about. I understand that you don't automatically think friends. That's not what this is about. It's about not doing what I feel like sometimes you guys do, is shutting completely off. You're shutting everything completely off when it comes up in the process.
We have to move on.
I got you.
Okay.
All right. I
Joe,
appreciate y'all,
thanks.
man.
Yep. Thanks for the call, Joe.
Yep.
All right.
Yep.
I mean, I'm sorry, Brady, if my tone sounded. I just get really. This is why I don't like talking about this. It just really. This is why I'm not on Facebook. This is why I got off Facebook, got off all of the Twitter and all that nonsense. I'm so tired and sick of Americans, and I don't know if it's just Americans. This might be a culture that's worldwide at this point, where everybody who can have access to a phone and Google something that's contrary to consensus ideas that are based on research feels that they have a right to challenge. It's like, yeah, you have a right to say whatever you want, but you also have a right to be called a moron for doing it. That's all I'm saying. All
right, we're going to go to the next call real quick. Okay, you are on with Be Good and Jay Witt. If you'd like to, please tell us who you are, where you're calling from, and get into why you call. You don't have to give us that info, but floor is yours.
Hey, this is Ty.
I know that voice. What's up, Ty? This is my sister on the phone. If you have not peeped out, I interviewed her about her deconversion. It's on Ichabod channel, or you can go catch her. She did an interview with Tim Mills just a little while ago. You can go catch that interview as well. So Ty, welcome. And Jay Witt, this is my sister Ty. Ty, this is Jay Witt.
Hey, Jay Witt.
So tell us what you think, Ty. Go ahead.
Well, I was, I wanted to chime in about what you were saying about the post that was on my page. I think that was I don't disagree with what you're saying at all. I think that, this Terence Howard debacle, he's been talking about this stuff for a long time, and it just really is, ridiculous. But I do agree.
Hold on. What post do you think I'm referring to?
Well, there's a couple that you could be referring to. So that's why I wanted to figure out which one are you referring to.
I'm not referring to the Terence Howard post.
No, I know which one you're referring to.
Okay.
I know what you want to talk about.
Do you mind if I post screenshots?
No, go ahead, post it.
Okay. This will be fun because even before I started advertising today's episode on Facebook, I think I posted the discussion about what we're going to talk about tonight. And then about a half hour later, I saw your post and I immediately started screenshotting because I'm like, yo, this is just good. I wasn't even going to mention you. I was going to just mention these things. How did I know that you would actually call tonight? So my sister Ty, she posted on her Facebook page, you asked people to comment on what their, I forget what was the phrase you used, like what their, what was the phrase?
What modality they practice.
What modality they practice to do what? What was the goal?
I was just asking for all of my woo-woo, witchy,
That's what it was.
spiritual practitioner people.
There it is. She said, all of my woo-woo, witchy, what was the other one?
I think it was spiritual practitioner.
Spiritual practitioners. What modality do you practice? And then you name the ones that you practice, and then you got a bunch of other people talking about the ones that they practice. So I'm going to I'm going to share my screen, and we'll see a few of them that made me say, I wonder, because you know me, Ty, right? Like the last call, Joe says, me and Jay, we just shut a lot of stuff down. We're closed to a lot of stuff that we should maybe be a little more open to. And so here's what some of the people said that they practice. Yeah, one person who says, I don't know if this is a he or she, they practice Akashic records, Reiki,
Akashic
records, Reiki, Qigong, sonic rituals, shamanistic ancestral invocation. So they're not religious necessarily, but they do these things. Another person says tarot. I guess those are
tarot
readings, meditative insight, speaking with nature spirits. Is that sprite? Or should that be spirit?
No, sprite and goddesses.
Sprite and goddesses, shadow work. Recently started using existential kink. Somebody said I do
That's a great book.
Okay. Somebody said I do womb healing work, mother trauma, bond releasing, cutting soul tie work. So, and there's more. Like this is, and there's tons of like, and I just sat there saying to myself, I know Jay Witt, your skin is probably crawling right now hearing some of these terms. I just sat there saying to myself, how would you, like, let's say you come out of religion and you go into something like this. If you try to put the same scrutiny to these kinds of practices that you put to your religion, or that you put to any other thing that you do in life, the same standard that you hold to whether or not you should cross the street because traffic is coming or not. If you try to put some of these same things through that same scrutiny, would these things hold up? And if not, at what, like, how do you get yourself to the point, especially after deconverting, where you're willing to give yourself to something else that is for the most part unverifiable?
Yeah, but I'm not giving myself to anything else. So for me, the difference is religion tries to make you adhere to this is who you have to be. This is what you have to say. This is how you have to do. This is how you have to think. This is how you have to live. And it's very restrictive. None of the things that I started practicing after that have those same parameters and restrictions. For me, it's been very freeing to come into a place where I'm tapping into my own intuition. And that's the difference for me. Now I will say this. I don't think a lot of the things that we ascribe to can be verifiable. And I don't think that anybody has all the answers. What I'm enjoying right now is I'm enjoying the fact that I don't know the full extent of our consciousness, of our subconsciousness, and I'm getting to explore all of that without any restraint. And that works for me and for where I am right now. So I haven't given myself to anything, and I'm like, oh, I have to do it this way. Like, that was the stuff that I did not want. But I do want something that allows me to tap into what I think is, my intuition, my higher self, that there's something else that's there for me. That and that's been my experience. I just did another post where I talked about, if you've been sitting in church giving your tithes and offerings for years, and you've been praying for 1,000 hours, but you are still unhealed in your life, maybe there's something else you should be looking into. And for me, I know I've experienced healing to different degrees with some of the newer things that I've been practicing and newer things that I've been exposed to.
I'm going to say one thing that I want Jay Witt to chime in. Jay Witt, you with us?
I'm scared of Jay Witt. I'm just kidding, Jay Witt.
All right. So I'm I don't want to rain on anybody's parade. So I just pulled up another one. This is another body of somebody said psychic, mediumship, shamanic
clearing,
clearings, and timeline shifting.
Yeah, and some of the stuff I don't even know.
Right. Twin flame, reunification. Generational curse breaking, energetic, like the number of things that we've come up with to do, I think, with everything that you just said, to tap into.
Speak for yourself.
Yeah. Well,
I haven't come up with
when I say we, I mean we as human beings. The number of things
I know what you're saying. I was being ironic. I do.
Right. So the end of last week's episode, we ended by saying, I talked about I don't know if it was, I think it was the end of Nurch. Me, you, and Al, we were talking, and I was saying, I put you on the spot, Jay, where I said, what about the person who says, I was a drug addict, I was this, I was that, I was the third, but when I became a Christian, I changed all that, my life, I said, well, me, myself, when I became a Christian, I stopped failing school, I stopped cursing out my mother, I stopped, I changed. And one of the things that I'm thoroughly convinced of is that Jesus or Islam or whatever your religion has become the focal point that some people needed to tap into abilities that they always had, but they just lacked the motivation. Maslow's hierarchy of needs talks about our motivations. Sometimes with all these numberless list of things that people can get into to tap into their inner selves, all that is giving you a focal point to muster your energies that you always had. I could have stopped cursing before I met Jesus. I just was unmotivated. I could have started making the honor roll before I became a Christian. I just didn't have a reason to. Well, these things gave me a reason. And I wonder to what degree religion and all of these things that people have listed on your page are just different things that people have come up with to get you to do what you could have always done. You just did not have the right motivation for them.
I think that's true. I think I use a different word. I think motivation can be part of it. I think sometimes you don't have the language. You don't have the expression to do it. I think there are other things that we do. And I just looked at this morning, so it's really interesting we're having this conversation. I said, I'm convinced that we make gods, we deify everything. Like we'll make gods of our emotions, our fears, our traumatic responses, people, desires, experiences, and we gather supporting evidence, and then we submit to those things. And this is something I'm exploring and trying to understand because I'm fascinated by why we do this. Why is this pattern over and over and over again? Like like you said, you can come out of religion and come out of this, and you can go into something else. So I'm very fascinated to figure out like what is it in it? It could be biological, could be genetics, could be something, but there's something within us that makes us look for these ways of finding a language, finding a motivation, finding something that allows us to pull ourselves up into something else.
I agree. Jay Witt, speak on it.
I can't really speak to this kind of thing, but what I will say is I remember before I got off all of the socials and dealing with these kinds of claims, and I worked at one point with a person who was a conspiracy theorist type guy, and I remember the thing that I was most annoyed with was all of their skepticism was reserved for established science or established theories of things. So it's not that they weren't skeptical. It was just an annoying skepticism that was always targeted at things where there was large swaths of consensus and establishment. And it was like, that was the thing they were skeptical, not the fringe guy, not the guy with the Kennedy assassination fringe theory. They weren't skeptical of that person. They were skeptical of whatever you could count on this person to fall on the side of whatever was the minority position, and he would die on that hill. And I just remember being like, I'm not arguing with this guy. Life is too short. Life is also and the only thing I would have to contribute to what your sister is saying, and some of these, shamanistic and so forth, and all these multisyllabic. Look, after I spent so many years in Christianity, memorizing chapters, walking, getting up early in the morning, waking up with the alarm to pray and all this. Look, I'll be damned. I will be damned if I will spend the rest of my life in search even. Look, I found so much. I can't speak for the other person, and far be it from me to ever tell another person what to do. I found so much fulfillment in finally gaining my life and knowing I'm making decisions for me about what I believe is right based on my own reasoning. And somebody say, "Oh, you made yourself." Okay, all right, I made myself into a god. Or is that all you have to say? Because I'm going to continue to live my life. All right, I don't have that is such a fulfilling state of circumstances. The state of, wow, I thought my way out of the BS of several generations of my family. And now I'm standing on something that I believe to be true, which is that stuff is false. I'll be damned if I'm going to turn this into another quest. Look, there are too many things I know. Like, I know what kind of food I like to eat. I know what I like to do for fun. I know, there are plenty of things that are, one might say intuitive, that are observable, that are tangible, that I can attach myself to and say, look, I enjoy a certain kind of music. I enjoy playing this instrument. I enjoy spending time with my son. There's enough of that in life. I don't find the need. Someone, it's almost like the argument against between abstract painters or artists and realist painters or artists or something. And one person says, "Hey, I want to delve into abstraction, and I find a certain." He's like, "Go ahead, do what you want to do." The other person says, "Hey, I find that the visual world that I can see is fascinating enough that I don't see the point in trying to chase the abstraction." Now, that's not to say that there isn't any beauty in both forms, but if I were to compare my worldview now, it's the real tangible world, the world of literature, the world of science, the world of music, the world of food. There's so many tangible, real things in the world that I can immerse myself into and enjoy that I don't see personally the sense in pursuing all kinds of unfalsifiable spiritual claims about the universe or the world. I don't see,
I would say, I would add in there, I like adding this point. In many cases, unfalsifiable, but in some cases, falsifiable.
Yeah. And I even though I'm speaking strongly, I'm not saying this to say that another person is wrong. This is why I'm J Witness Protection. I told Brady when I first deconverted, the part of the reason why I wanted to keep it to myself is it felt so personal. And the idea that people feel like they have a right to your personal beliefs about spirituality or what is paranormal or whatever. To me, it was a private thing. I believe these things, this for me. And the same thing I'm saying about me and the other person who wants to get into being a shaman or whatever, that's for them. It's like, you do what you do you can do that over there and do what you want to do if that's bringing you fulfillment, because ultimately I believe when we die, that's basically it. So you may as well make it enjoyable. If you get joy out of reading tarot cards or whatever, do your thing. But for me, it seems really silly to have, come on, ye foolish Galatians. How the hell did you spend mad years in Christianity only to debunk it and get out of that, to now chase after a bunch of other stuff that's like second cousins to the same shit? To me, it doesn't make sense.
I appreciate that. Let me give Todd the last word. We do have somebody else waiting, and we kind of go off around 10 anyway, but I'm going to see if we're going to get to this last call. But Todd, you get the last word.
I agree with about 98%, of what Jay Witt says in there in terms of, and this is what I love about the people that have posted on my page. Nobody is shaming or saying that you have to do it this way or pointing a finger and saying, there's none of that. People are just saying, this is what I'm into. This is what I'm exploring. And I think, and like it goes back to me, what I said is, I don't know. I'm exploring. I'm enjoying the exploration. I'm going to find answers because I'm a seeker and I want to know. And I enjoy diving into that. If other people don't enjoy diving into it, don't do it. But what I'm not going to do, like Jay Witt, is I'm not going to tolerate somebody telling me you have to believe this way or being a part of anything that says you have to follow this or you're going to do X, Y, and Z. Yeah. That's bullshit. We're not doing that. And I can enjoy the freedom of just exploring stuff and leaving it there.
I lied. I know I said I'd give you the last word, but Jay Witt's point, he said, go into other things that are the cousin of the same thing you just left. One of the reasons why I get a little bit antsy when I see the answers that people gave on your page was I look at what they're talking about, and sometimes it's new names for old things. And when you trace back what they're talking about doing, you're like, oh, this is what the Mayans did, or this is what the Persians did. This is what the, the Indians did. This is what, and the reason why they did those things is because they did not know what we know about the world now. If those people who began these practices, whether it be animism or ancestral worship or astrology, if the people who began those practices could look through a microscope or a telescope to see what we see now, they would have never begun those practices. And so to see people today finding themselves saying, oh, I think this might be the way to tap into, that's why I feel like what Jay Witt said, these are the cousins of the same thing that I just left. And so I have a hard time patting someone on the back saying, yeah, go do that, because I would not pat someone on the back who somebody could leave those things and come to Christianity saying, oh, I left animism alone. I left tarot card readings alone, and go into Christianity. I wouldn't pat them on the back. I'd be like, no, you were doing good. Don't go with. So I kind of have I feel like I have to have the same kind of mindset to the person who's leaving religion and going into those things. That just feels consistent to me. So I don't know
the same mind being you that made you leave Christ. Come on, somebody.
If it was going into a church, or if it was going into a practice that was restrictive and told me I had to do X, Y, and Z, I would be 100% with that. But all of this, most of the things that people were listening, the only thing that threw me off that I didn't like was somebody was talking about Dianetics, which is a straight cult. Right? So I was like, yeah, I'm not sure about that one. But if there's something that's just allowing you to tap into you, I have no problem with that. And that's what I think is liberating. Like, I don't have to answer to anybody. And none of these things are, hey, this is a God that you have to bow down and worship to. That's not what we're talking about here. So
well, whatever you do, just be careful that you don't open up doors for the dark spirits to come in and.
Oh, no, those are the best. No, just kidding.
All right. Love you. I'll talk with you.
Have a good night, guys.
Right, peace.
Bye.
That was cool. That was cool. Hey, you got time for one more, Jay? We'll make it a quick one.
Yeah.
Okay.
Go ahead.
You sure?
Yeah, go ahead.
This person has been waiting patiently. All right, bringing them in.
Those are the best.
You're on with Jay Witt, and be good if you can mute your sound. There you go. Tell us if you don't mind. Yep. Who you are, where you calling from. If you don't want to share that, you don't have to.
What's going on, good brothers? It is Bradley James. I'd like to think I'm the catalyst for the whole Joe Rogan experience conversation.
No, I had planned to do that before you even. So Bradley James has
So he's the catalyst for the torture I've been going through.
Yeah. So
he posted the comment about
just to give you guys a little bit of backstory on that. What you saw was the.
Oh, hold on, real quick. I think it's important to share this too. I think it's important to share this. You are a believer. You're a Christian.
Yeah. I guess that's a category. Yeah.
Wait, why you sound shaky about that?
Well, again, so full transparency, Carlos is my brother. And
oh wow,
my faith is not as stout as my good brother. My good brother is
this is very interesting to me.
In my opinion, the one good Christian in the world. and
so were you on when I shared the story about him driving up to Philadelphia to to meet me after I deconverted? Yeah.
We was on the phone. We was on the phone while he was driving up. We talked about the whole thing. We talked about him driving up and like
this
getting
is
everything.
Very
like,
interesting to me right now.
And then when he drove back, we kind of talked about how the interview went and everything. It was dope, man. Yeah. So,
okay. Wow.
So,
okay.
But no. So more to the point, what you guys saw in that post and what happened was I feel like I was a victim of screen capture mania, right? You took a screenshot and you said, hey man, this guy's sitting at the shade tree. But what you didn't see was that was the public, I guess the public presentation of a personal conversation Carlos now was having. So to give you guys the backstory on it,
okay.
And I kind of went into it a little bit on your Facebook feed. Terrence Howard had mentioned initially in like the first 3 or 4 minutes, right? So he had mentioned about sound waves and how that played a part in creating the universe, which was extremely interesting to me because I don't have any formal education in science, but I have been studying that for quite some time. So I sent it to Carlos and said, look, Carlos, we're finally starting to get mainstream recognition. It's huge. I said, this guy's a genius. He's a genius. So I was like, I'm going to post it and see what they say. So I posted that saying, hey, I'm going to sit at this guy's tree because he's sharing the same views. Now, granted, like I said in your post earlier, his views are I believe they're in the very early stages of where he's trying to get to. I can understand what he was trying to say, but it's so early in his development that there's, you don't have to go too far to poke holes in it, right? And I'm not here to defend the sound bites. I'm not here to defend the 1 times 1 is 1 and all that other stuff. That's just, I like I said, I believe in order to reach a certain level of genius, you have to have a certain level of crazy, right? There cannot be genius without crazy. So I think the good brother in trying to express himself, express both sides of his genius and his craziness, right? So, but yeah, so okay. So my theory, and this is this is French, as they would like to say, there is something between the relativity of sound because we know elements produce sound, right? We know this. This is scientific fact. Elements produce sound. And atoms.
I don't know that. I haven't looked into that, so I cannot vouch for that. But if you're saying that, we know that the body of.
Well, you're right. You're right. So so there is a correlation between light and sound. We don't know. Well, and I use the term we as in the scientific community. What we don't know is we don't know how in relation they worked to form the universe.
So when I was a Christian, I would have eaten this up because in Genesis 1, you have God saying, let there be. And I would have said, see, God's voice, that was the sound wave and I would have, without even trying to vet any of it, I would have just grabbed it and said, this proves that the Genesis chapter 1 is true. Can I just ask?
I told you batshit crazy.
Okay. So you would not have gone that route. You just think that there's a correlation. You just think there's a correlation between sound and the coming into being of matter from energy. You think there's a correlation there.
Right. And I don't know. Well, science doesn't know, right? But there's been studies, and I posted a couple of links. I was talking to a couple of the good brothers on your page in regards to that, and posting a couple of links from the studies from NASA and so on over the last decade or so about finding out how atoms make sounds and elements have their own sound frequencies, right? But the science is still so new and so unknown.
And do you think Terence Howard is ahead of the curve on this?
I don't. I think he's looking in the right direction, but like I said, he's at a point to where the tires are able to be kicked, right? But when you start going off into the other stuff, I get it. And it's like being a Christian for the first time, right? Like when you first get that new Christian feel, you got to go out and slay everybody with your sword or whatever, right? And then after a while, you kind of mellow down and be like, all right, hey, let me pull it in a little bit. And I think that's where Terrence is with his research. He's extremely excited about it. He wants to get it out to the world, but it's not ready yet. It hasn't matured enough yet to be presented, and that's why it's able to be debunked so thoroughly and so easily.
And I agree with you on that, except for I struggle to call it research. But research is not just here's my pontifications, here's my untested claims. Like, none of that is research. It's not even
I
theory.
agree with you. He hasn't done enough research, because if he, like, you know, so I sent you a link to a podcast that I was listening to where there was a physicist and a mathematician kind of going back and forth.
I saw that, and neither one of them was giving him kudos for what he was saying.
Absolutely, and they were saying, like, hey, you know, had you taken this a little bit further, you probably wouldn't have went left at the 1 × 1 is 1. And, you know what I'm saying?
Jay Witt, that's the one that you were talking about, where the guy was sort of like at least thanking Terence Howard for getting people talking about science.
Right.
Yeah.
Right. So I just want to, I know you guys are running past time, man, and I don't want to hold up too long, but I just wanted to make sure I called at the end of the day and kind of give you guys.
Hey, you know what? I appreciate
and,
you watching the episode and for calling in and for clarifying. You're a brother of Carlos, so you're a friend of mine. So I got nothing but love for you. Jay Witt, any thoughts from what you've heard?
I mean, we got a long way to go as a society.
Got you.
I'll stick to debunking the Bible, man. Like, I think in the future I'm going to call out anything like I just don't. I can't do it.
All right. Hey, well, hey Bradley, thanks so much for calling, man. I'm gonna let you go.
All right, man. You guys have a great one.
You're the same.
All
right. I gotta find a way to get Jay Witt enthused about helping, because Jay Witt, here's what's happening. I can't.
I mean, I feel like we're kind of. I feel like entertaining. Like, I feel like there needs to be a thread of continuity between this and, like, I know you articulated it some, but it's just too much. Like, there's a lot of quacks in the work, right? So
yeah, part of what this is good for. Go ahead.
I was just saying, like, it just seems that, like, for those who come to us for the catharsis and release, they get just hearing us kind of break down where the Bible went wrong and even how cathartic it is just for me, you know, personally.
Mm-hmm.
So this is a moment of just transparency. I don't get any of that out of talking about Billy Carson or Terrence Howard. I just can't, like, and people who think that that's compelling, it puts me in a place that when I left Christianity, I was very frustrated and angry about being lied to.
Mm-hmm.
And subsequently, I ended up eventually just feeling a great amount of peace and a certain kind of carefreeness as I began to cut off certain social media where I was always interacting with Christians or having to see them. And to the point where now my life is, you know, thankfully I'm at a point where I don't have any of that kind of stress in my life. I don't have any of the kind of a nuisance of seeing certain kinds of credulity on a regular basis. So when I have to, like, contend with it, and this, it's just it awakens an uneasiness and an actual.
This is triggering for you, basically.
It just doesn't feel good. I got out of those communities to rid myself of all of this, you know, the shaman and all of it. I don't have to ever see any of that.
I hear you.
I live in the real world. Like, in general, my entire existence is within the real world. And I threw out all of my Bible commentaries and books. I had a pretty substantial library. I threw all of that stuff. It took me a while to actually throw out my Bible because I had been devoted. I was like, am I throwing out something that is a significant part of my story? I had all kinds of notes in one of them, and the other was in pristine condition because I believed the Bible was something I should never have. I had gotten to a point where I didn't think I should even write anything in the margins or highlight anything on the Bible because it was that sacred. I threw them both out. And when I threw it all out, I started afresh. My life is brand new, and it was just like, it feels great. I can just enjoy my life. I don't have to. It's not about me trying to convince. But when you talk to people who, it's just a frustrating thing to talk to people who don't understand the basic rules about how to reason. And to me, it's just frustrating. It's just really frustrating.
This is probably
especially when they.
Go ahead.
especially when they accuse me, it's the consistent Christian thing where it's like, well, you're just as credulous as I am. And it's like, well, that's kind of like not true. It's like,
Well,
I'm not going to sit here and argue with you about it, but it's just like,
but this is why, and I hope nobody who's watching this or people who call in, please don't take this the wrong way. But I'm saying this is probably an offline conversation that me and Jay Witt are probably going to end up having, but we're having it publicly because I think it's good to just hash it out. I look at it differently than you, Jay Witt, in the sense of I'm not, even though I'm talking to the person who's calling, like when I'm on Facebook all day, right? I'm on Facebook. I got a life. I live a life. I'm doing a million things. I'm working on a project right now that I can't wait to finish. It's taking me all day, every day for the last 3 weeks to do this. And I still got another probably 3 weeks left of all day, every day. But I still pull myself away from that project and I'm answering questions on Facebook. I'm dialoguing with people. And a lot of the times I'm not talking to the person that I'm talking to. I'm talking for the person who's watching the conversation, because that person is trying to figure out, how would I respond to those kinds of comments? How would I respond to those kinds of claims? So I'm not trying to say, please don't hear me say this, I'm not talking past the person who's calling. And it's not that I don't care about the person who's calling, because I really do. But I also really care about the person who's watching, trying to figure out, they're taking notes, mental and sometimes literal notes, trying to figure out if a Christian or a person who's into this worldview or that kind of thinking was telling me that, how would I respond? And so I just say that to say, I'm twisting Jay Witt's arm. I'm pulling your leg to get you to remain in these convos and invested in them, because as clear as you think and express things, there are people who are, even though I think it's good I think it's good that they see your, I think it's good that they see your, I think it's good that they see your disinterest as well.
Yeah, I just don't have it. I don't have it in me. I don't have any interest in those conversations. Like I
got you.
But you know, I see how it could be beneficial to people. But when I feel myself just being like a person I don't like being, I don't like being, I love arguments, but I don't like being, so a lot of people don't respect the distinction between arguments and being argumentative. And the latter is a disposition that's just sort of cantankerous, etc. I don't like that. I like arguments in the sense of having a discussion and having sound basis for, you know, your conclusions and so forth. But you can't even begin to have a fruitful argument when people don't respect the rules of reasoning. So when they like, you know, I did study logic for a good amount of time, and when I see the kinds of equivocation and so forth going on in the conversation, it just makes it, instead of making me want to like teach somebody how to reason and think, it just makes me want to disengage.
Gotcha.
At some point, I find myself not being engaged by it. But you know, hopefully the callers, whoever I spoke to, won't take it personally. This isn't about them. It's like them personally and their views. It's more just, I don't have a lot of energy to, you know, I don't want to repeat what I've already said.
All
You
good.
know, you get what I mean. Yeah.
All good. Well, this was a great
But
episode.
your
I think
she was quite pleasant, and that's not just because it was your sister, but like I always can respect somebody who says, hey, you know, I know this is a little, you know, off the beaten path, but this is what I enjoy. I mean, look, most of life, I feel like, should be that way. It's like you get involved with what you enjoy. Just don't go around being doctrinaire about it if it's based on, you know, which is what Billy Carson, it's sort of what Terence Howard is doing. So like those guys are going around basically preaching their position to people, and it's just totally baseless. Now, if you like those kinds of things and you find them, you're curious about them and so forth, sure. But to get on the mic and then start telling people this is the nature of reality, it's like, all right, come on. You know, you have to subject such claims to a little bit more scrutiny. You get what I mean? And we've been on here.
Yep.
I guess I said more now than I said the whole episode.
Hopefully I've accomplished my goal tonight, which is just to demonstrate the difference between the religious mind, religious thinking, the thinking that claims in and of themselves warrant your credulity versus having to demonstrate the claim. And until somebody demonstrates the claim, you are not in any way obligated to believe. Matter of fact, you are, I think reason obligates you to demand that people demonstrate what they're claiming. That is a more scientific way to think and to live life. And we commend that to you. We're going to be doing that on this podcast. So that being the case, looking for any last super chats, and I don't see any. So we've been on for 2.5 hours. Thank you guys for rocking with us.
Special thanks to forget his name.
Thurgood.
Thurgood, yeah, that's right.
Yes, for sure.
Thurgood has been, you know, he's been back in the day I would have said he's been a blessing to the podcast. So
we got to come up with some kind of like badge or some kind of like way to give people access for people who are super chatting and all that. But yeah, we'll think on those things.
Maybe me changing my disposition and actually engaging these guys. We'll be like, all right, Jay will actually address, you know, the stuff and keep a smile on his face while doing it. You know?
Hey, help us out real quick. How was the sound? I know I kept asking Jay to get into the mic, and he would, and that would. But a lot of times I find that my sound is very it pales in comparison to other guests' sound. How was our sound tonight? How was my mic tonight? Was it 2 thumbs, 1 thumb, both thumbs down? Throw something in the chat. Let me know, because I'm trying different things. I got an interface I'm going to hook up and all this stuff. How was the sound tonight, y'all?
Yeah. This is you know, I made it through. I guess if this was some sort of I don't know, trial by ordeal or whatever. I made it to the end. And you guys aren't gonna even get the go away. Maybe I should put the go away music, the revival music on, take us out, you know, take us on out of here. Huh?
Sound was good. Okay, thank you so much for that. All right. That being the case, hey, you guys go ahead and have a great night and have a great rest of your week, and we will catch you soon. Much love. Peace.